This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to The Door Report.
What did I say for you? Tell them to bring me my money.
It's hard not to just remind Jared Curtis how much I would love for you to come to Vanderbilt. And we're local kids, become best friends, bud.
Trust them for what they tell us and not get into gimmicks and propaganda stuff.
Welcome back into episode 339 of The Door Report on a lovely, would you say lovely? Rainy, not very lovely.
Very fall-like.
Very fall-like Tuesday evening, October 28th, 2025. I am Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, a.k.a. Hack Squad Jim Duggan, right behind the new gold helmet here, which I'm not sure how long this will be here. Thank you, Jacob Scholl, for accidentally leaving that at the tailgate. Our producer, Phoebe, is also present. We'll see how involved she is today.
Also, over my shoulder, we have linebacker coach Nick Lazinski. It is beautiful, big suit. Thank you to his brother Xavier and his wonderful wife. I will cherish this forever.
Big suits up, anchors down, baby. Here at the Door Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Items include NFL team packs, graded cards, individual cards, and more. Shipping is always fast and free. We also have the Rowback ad. I was rocking both a Rowback polo and a Rowback quarter zip this weekend.
He had the row on his back.
Can't hide money, baby. Rowback activewear. There is only one way to describe Rowback. Best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Rowback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rowback has released so many items within their newly licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and quarter zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these levels of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Rowback's everyday shorts or their Delta performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They're both super comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. Rowback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, both past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. You can use code VAN20, that is VAN20, all capitals, no spaces, on rowback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers. That's spelled Rowback, RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with code VAN20. Trevor, we have, let's get it out of the way early, a beefy episode 339 here. And before I forget to say it early on this episode, I'm going on a work trip next week. So we will be recording episode 340 of The Door Report on Sunday night, and that will be releasing on Monday morning. So a little bit off our normal schedule next week for episode 340. But TDR is going to be here to recap the Texas game, whichever direction that goes, and to preview the Auburn game, as well as we'll have a little basketball to preview as Vanderbilt tips off the 2025-2026 season on November 3rd, facing your Lipscomb Bison.
Horns down.
But Trevor, great victory by the Vanderbilt Commodores over number 15 at the time, Missouri, the second top 15 win in a row for your Vanderbilt Commodores. Vanderbilt went into the game ranked number 10. Vanderbilt is now ranked number 9 in the AP poll, jumped up one spot. No teams in front of them lost. So they just jumped Miami.
Because Miami had a bye.
So deservedly so, Vanderbilt getting it. But at this point where Vanderbilt is ranked, teams in front of you got to lose, regardless of how well you do. That's how high Vanderbilt is in the rankings. It's new ground, new territory, uncharted waters for Vanderbilt fans. But that's no slight or mistake by the AP poll. Just nobody lost in front of them.
Do you briefly, there is a mistake made by a voter within the AP poll. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm about to sneeze.
It went away.
Actually, no, I'm not. It's tickling my nose a little bit, so TBD. But one mistake I do want to bring up about the AP poll that is sort of related to Vanderbilt. Do you remember our friend Haley Sawyer?
I do remember our friend Haley Sawyer, who is no longer active on Twitter.
Did you see her poll this week?
I did not dig into it this week.
You
No.
want to know where she had LSU in her AP poll?
Oh, dear God, where?
21.
Interesting choice.
She had LSU ranked still at 21. And people saw that and were rightfully upset, started asking questions, and now she's no longer on the platform known as Twitter.
Well, she was already off that platform well before that.
Oh, really?
She deleted her Twitter account like right after week 2 or 3 or whenever that. She
false info by me.
Initially made it private. Initially removed it from that AP poll graphic and no longer had it linked to her vote, and then completely deleted her Twitter.
Yeah, she had LSU number 21.
If you're going to be an AP poll voter, you got to stand on business.
Yeah.
And at least she deleted it instead of just blocking people, like even bigger of a coward. I will say blocking is a cowardice move.
Mm-hmm.
I do not block.
Yeah, I don't
Unless
believe in
it's
blocking.
The only time I'll block is if it's a bot account that is clearly like attached. I don't mean a bot like when people are like, oh, he's a bot when it's just a troll. I mean like a true bot account, like utilizing APIs. So
yeah,
Vanderbilt beat Missouri 17-10 in a slug it out defensive battle. And I'm going to steal something from Josh Pate in his recap of the Vanderbilt Missouri game. He said, this is a game that takes a sophisticated football palate to appreciate. 3-3 at halftime. Ultimately, Vanderbilt, and you can call it fireworks. A few more points were scored in the second half, but 27 total points between both teams. However, a lot of momentum changing plays throughout that game, even if they really weren't touchdowns for the most part. A lot of defensive stands, a lot of not a lot of turnovers, but a lot of momentum changing plays. Trevor, Vanderbilt sitting at 7-1 for the first time since 1941. I'm going to say that because I'm going to ask what we always ask in the intro here. What's the vibe check? What do we got?
Man, vibe check is going to stay what it's been, which I believe has been at a 10 out of 10. It's hard to go much higher than that. Man, that game was, and we talked about this after the game, that was maybe the most anxiety-inducing Vanderbilt football game that I've ever experienced in my life. And I remember it was the 2017 Vanderbilt. Was that 2017 or 2018? The Ole Miss game with A.J. Brown that went to overtime.
Oh, what year was that?
That was either 2017 or 2018. I think it was 2018 now that I'm thinking about it. Up until this past weekend, that was the most.
Yes, 2018.
2018. Up until this past Saturday, that game was the most anxiety-inducing Vanderbilt football game that I could remember. This past Saturday took that over, but still ugly game. There's no such thing as ugly wins, though. And a hallmark of great teams is winning ugly ball games when your back's against the wall, when you're not putting forth your best effort. Still somehow, when all of the odds are stacked against you, coming out with the victory. That's a hallmark of a great football team. What a win for the Doors. What a win for the Doors. Last time, like you said, they were 7-1. Pearl Harbor. The unfortunate event known as Pearl Harbor.
Hopefully no more Pearl Harbors in the foreseeable future, as our president was just in Japan. So it seems like things have smoothed over since then, just slightly.
Just a little bit.
Didn't know we'd be talking Pearl Harbor in the intro here.
Well, it's funny. All these records that Vanderbilt's breaking are centralized around World War II. And so I'm on the train with Clark Lee. I want to know what these pre-World War II Vanderbilt teams, I want to know what offense they were running. These boys were putting up some points.
We have a lot to get to in episode 339. We have the Missouri recap, me and Trevor's 3 key takeaways, any quick basketball or baseball thoughts we have. I think we'll push the basketball thoughts to next week, since we will be recording on Sunday right before Vanderbilt's first game of the season. Then we have the Texas preview, me and Trevor's 3 keys to victory, and then our predictions. So before we get into all that and much more, we are now a part of the On3 Publisher Network. Visit thedoreport.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual premium membership and support TDR for access to premium content, as well as our premium message board behind closed doors. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that YouTube channel. Helps us out a lot. Helps us keep the podcast free. Our podcast is available on, which it will never not be free, I'm going to be honest. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes or Spotify. It's now time for segment 1. Welcome back in to segment 1 of episode 339 of The Door Report. First to start in segment 1, we have the Vanderbilt, Missouri recap. Vanderbilt beat the number 15 Missouri Tigers, as I said in the intro, 17-10 in a slug-it-out defensive battle. We're going to dive pretty quickly into our key takeaways. I'm going to read off really quickly. We probably should just dive into our 3 key takeaways so we don't steal away from any takeaways. But
Yeah.
A lot of momentum shifting plays, but anything that I say right now is probably going to take away from me and Trevor's 3 keys. So we will dive into the stats or anything that we miss after this. Missouri outgained Vanderbilt, 376 total yards for Missouri to 265 for Vanderbilt. Outrushed Vanderbilt 170 to 136. Outpassed Vanderbilt 206 to 129. However, the Vanderbilt Commodores came out of the game with a victory and with the most important stat that matters, more points on the scoreboard. So, Trevor, we're going to dive right into these 3 key takeaways because I think they are going to hit on quite a few of the stats that I would otherwise read off. Trevor, do you want to go first here?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think one of the biggest plays of the game came from MK Young. So my key takeaway is not just MK Young, but I'm going to toot my horn a little bit. All off season, all fall camp, I kept telling guys, I was like, MK Young, MK Young, MK Young. He's good. Trust me, guys. He's what this offense needs. And people are still like, man, they should have gotten somebody in the portal. They should have brought in somebody else. Little did they know what I knew, and that MK Young is the truth. It just, in addition, it's not just MK Young, man. Cedric Alexander had a hell of a ball game. It's not going to show in the stat sheet, but just, it's like we said last week, man, a dude that just runs hard, is physical and pass protection, great in the pass game. AJ Newberry seems like he's starting to get his feet under him a little bit. Once he gets his feet moving, then he's going to be an absolute weapon in this offense. But I really want to highlight MK Young, man. MK Young has an incredible burst and speed and quickness, and he's really good moving east to west. Then whenever he finds a hole, he's got great north-south speed. So I want to shout out MK Young. He's my first key takeaway. Huge touchdown run for the Vanderbilt Commodores from MK Young. But I also, key takeaway, want to shout out myself. I told you so.
An 80-yard touchdown run, by the way. Just had to add that.
With a beautiful pancake block by Tristan Brown. Beautiful textbook pancake block.
Beautiful pancake block. That is the best way to say it. That was right after Missouri's short missed field goal. That was such a huge momentum shift moment. Vanderbilt immediately capitalizing on that missed short field goal from Missouri's inexperienced freshman kicker. It's funny, me and Trevor don't share these key takeaways before the podcast, and it's funny how similar they end up being. My number 1 key takeaway is going to be plain and simple. TDR knows ball. Trevor, all offseason, there are a lot of transfers that come in. Every single year on every single roster, but specifically this year for Vanderbilt, there were some significant transfers. Trevor, all offseason, like he said, was on MK Young. I was a little more hesitant on the MK Young train. I will take a step back and say I was wrong. MK Young is what this offense needed. He has the explosive playmaking capability. Vanderbilt last year, the stat I kept going over and over and over again was Vanderbilt didn't have a rush by a running back over 31 yards. That was a big stat. That has dramatically changed this year with the addition of MK Young, as well as the improved explosive playmaking capability of Cedric Alexander. I say TDR knows ball and not just MK Young in particular, because the transfer I was highest on that I was preaching about all offseason was CJ Hurd.
Yep.
Transfer safety from FAU, true sophomore, the Sea Snake. And guess the two biggest momentum shifting plays of that game were number one, the 80-yard touchdown by MK Young, and number two or number one, whatever order you want to put them
whichever
in,
one.
was CJ Hurd. It's not a fumble, stripping the ball on an imperfect exchange between Missouri's backup quarterback and Jamal Roberts, just took the ball away, and something you usually do not see at the college level. That was something you'll see from an elite safety at a high school level quite a few times, but just stole the ball away with Missouri at midfield. Vanderbilt took that ball, drove down, scored a touchdown, changed the game. 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, massive play. So if you've listened to TDR all summer, talking about these guys that came in all through fall camp, the two guys that me and Trevor keyed on specifically, Trevor was MK Young, I was CJ Hurd, and ultimately those two transfers made the two biggest key impact plays of the game that ultimately won Vanderbilt this football game. So my key takeaway number one, TDR knows ball, regardless of the BS accusations that are thrown at us.
Yeah, people call us homers, and I'll give it to them. I am a homer. Call me that, it sticks, because that's what I am. But whenever you call me a homer, also remember to call me and Will a ball knower. Don't you forget. We know who you are. We see your posts. We see your messages on the Twitter and the message boards and all sorts of platforms. I'm always lurking. My key takeaway number two. How do I say this? I have not been as harsh on the defense as other people. And I think whenever people criticize this defense, I don't think it's really being harsh. I think in a lot of instances it is justified. But one thing that I've really been noting from this defense is how they are in the red zone. I said it last week. I probably said it the week before. I probably said it the week before that. I don't care really what offenses do in between the 20s. I really don't. What can the defense do when they're inside the red zone, when their back's against the wall and the offense has all the momentum and they hold all the cards? What can the defense do? And this Vanderbilt team, not just last week, but continued it this week, has showed that when they are backed up in the red zone, this defense, there's some type of switch in their mind, and then they can flip it right as soon as they're inside that 20 and they become locked down. As soon as their backs are against the wall, as soon as the field shrinks, this defense is ferocious, and they keep teams out of the end zone, and they make offenses turn the ball over on downs, or they make them attempt field goals. And as we know, in this modern era of college football, field goals don't win you games. So trading in those touchdowns for field goals is huge, and the Vanderbilt defense has continued to do it the past couple weeks. So red zone defense was my key takeaway number two. Man, they locked down when they needed to.
That was what won the game. I mean, Missouri was 1 of 3 when they entered the red zone. One of those was a missed field goal. One of those was a fourth down stop by the defense. And one of those, they did punch it in with the backup quarterback. Zollers, is that how you pronounce it?
I've heard Zollers, or I've also heard Zollers.
Okay, Zollers. We didn't hit on it because we just jumped right into the 3 key takeaways. But on that fourth down stand, Bo Prabula was injured, was carted off the field. Turns out nothing broken, but some ligament damage, and there is a slight possibility that he's able to return for Missouri sometime in the regular season. That might be kind of a pipe dream for Missouri fans, but glad there was nothing broken. Thoughts and prayers with Bo Prabula. Regardless of what Missouri fans think, Vanderbilt fans are not deeply celebrating the injury to Bo Prabula, as Trevor smiles over there for some reason. I'm not smiling over nothing, dude. My key takeaway number 2 is kind of broad, but it is the most important takeaway from this game. This Vanderbilt team can win in multiple ways. And a good team, a great team, can win in multiple ways. They're not all going to be, all games are not going to flow exactly how you want to. Some games are going to be shootout games. Some games are going to be grinded out slugfests. This was the first time that a Vanderbilt game was not a race to 30. In every single game prior to this, at least one team, sometimes both, has scored at least 30 points. This is the first time that Vanderbilt really experienced a defensive battle, and this team came out on top and won. And guess what? Vanderbilt didn't win a slug it out in the way that you would think Vanderbilt would expect to win a slug it out. They lost time of possession. The turnover battle was neutral. They got outgained on the ground. Everything about this was a game that you would think Vanderbilt should lose, but you know what good teams and great teams do? They find ways to win, and that's what Vanderbilt did. The defense, I've been critical of them. The defense stepped up in this game. The defense once again, or not once again, the defense won the game for the offense, and that has not been the case throughout most of this season. So that's my key takeaway number 2. The defense really showed me something. Granted, Missouri is an elite rushing attack, which I'm more confident with this defense. My big issue with this defense is in the pass game. I think they still have holes that can be poked in that secondary against good passing attacks. But this Vanderbilt team can win in multiple ways, and that's something you need out of a true CFP contender. So that's my key takeaway number 2.
Yeah, wonderful. My key takeaway number 3, I'm going to get a little bit negative. I thought the offensive line had their worst game. I know for a fact the offensive line had their worst game of the season. To put it frank, they just kind of got whooped. And I will say they did go up against probably either the best or the second best defensive line they'll go up against all season. We'll get into it later. Texas does have some dogs on the defensive line, particularly Colin Smith. But those 2 edge rushers, and Damon Wilson II and Zion Young, those are elite pass rushers.
Colin Simmons, I think.
Colin Simmons. What did I say?
Colin Smith.
Colin Smith. Yeah,
Vanderbilt legend.
UC Santa Barbara, where the hell he's at now. But this Missouri defensive line, defensive front, you can make the argument is going to be the best defensive front Vanderbilt plays all season long. And, they just got whooped. Diego Pavia was rushed and pressured and getting touched a lot. And pause. Yeah, on pause. And, the offensive line just didn't look inept, because that's too harsh. But between how they were in pass pro and really with the penalties, like Bryce Henderson had a couple of bad penalties that really put Vanderbilt at a disadvantage.
Jordan White had a bad penalty.
Jordan White
knocked him out of field goal range.
Yeah. You can't have that stuff, especially whenever you're getting down to crunch time and you have real college football playoff aspirations on the line. That just can't happen. So my key takeaway number 3 is that the offensive line had their worst game of the season.
At least I know I'm not going insane. Thank God I wrote down 4 key takeaways here, because my key takeaway number 3 was the offensive line struggled for the first time. And that doesn't mean they've just steamrolled everybody they've played. They lost to Alabama 30-14, and the offensive line did have their certain struggles against Alabama, but that was largely due to 2 red zone turnovers by the offense. This was the first time that I've really gone out of a game, even after a victory, and said, man, the offensive line got beat. Diego Pavia was running for his life, and there would have been a lot more sacks. I think they had 2 team sacks.
I believe that's correct.
But it could have been a lot more if Diego Pavia was not as mobile with as much pocket awareness as he has. Missouri's defensive front was as advertised.
Yeah.
The stat sheet's not going to show how good Zion Young and Damon Wilson were and Josiah Trotter. It's just not. When you have edge rushers that
I didn't even name Trotter, yeah,
they're going against a mobile quarterback, they're just not going to put up those stats, but they were disruptive as hell. Yeah. That Missouri front, outside of Texas, which we're going to get to exactly like you said, I think that was the best defensive front. Definitely Vanderbilt has faced all season.
Well, not just defensive front. That's the best defense they've played all season and will play all season. There's a reason that Mizzou team is at least top 15, if not top 5 in almost every single defensive metric.
They're legit.
They're elite. That's an elite defense.
So I will switch mine up and go to my alternate key takeaway. And that's going to be a little nuanced here, but it's going to say Tim Beck got away from jet sweeps and tight end utilization. So I'm not going to go extremely broad on this and say Tim Beck got away from the game plan. And I'm also giving the caveat of that was the best defensive front that Vanderbilt has played. So that's going to adjust what you have to do. So how much of this was just you have some incredible edge rushers out there that just disrupt what you want to do? That is a lot of this. So this is not me just shitting on Tim Beck. That's not what I'm doing. However, early in the game, Vanderbilt had a little bit of success in the jet sweep action. And with tight ends in general, you saw it late in the game with a very key Eli Stowers first down. You saw him climb the ladder on a catch. I just feel like that needs to be highlighted, bolded, capital letters. You have to get Eli Stowers and Cole Spence the football. And you saw Cole Spence after the performance he had last week against LSU with 5 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown. He just wasn't involved in the pass game whatsoever. Now, how much of that was the talent of Missouri's safeties and linebackers and the pressure that Diego Pavia was under and having to leave Cole Spence in to block a lot more? That's probably part of it. And jet sweeps, they're going to be controlled if you have disruptive edges like Missouri does. So I'm not saying that this is a little nitpicky in some capacities. How much of this was the Missouri defense just being completely disruptive and Tim Beck having to do things differently versus how much was it of maybe the classic overthinking, so to speak, from Tim Beck? So everything was not perfect. Diego Pavia had his worst statistical performance of the season, I think, by far. Only 10 completed passes, 10 of 19 for 129 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Ran the ball, wasn't that successful, 8 carries for 20 yards and a game-winning touchdown. I will add that in. But overall, this Vanderbilt offense just struggled. I just need to see consistent utilization of those jet sweeps. Sometimes Vanderbilt just goes away from it, and it works. It disrupts the entire defense. I need to see Trey Richardson and Caleb Barnett combined for at least 5 of those in every single game. And they did it early and then got away from it. And I know it's not that simple. I know it's more complicated than that. But at times in the crowd, you're just saying, why aren't we utilizing the elite tight ends that we have? Why aren't we utilizing these jet sweeps when it seems like the offense is stalling? And I know it's because the defense is taking that away. I know I'm adding so many caveats to this, but yeah, Tim Beck kind of got away from what this Vanderbilt offense did so well last week against LSU. And LSU's defense is very talented. They're not as talented as this Missouri defense, but they were able to hammer home their game plan against LSU, regardless of the talent on the other side. And I think that's my final takeaway is just Tim Beck kind of got away from jet sweeps and tight end utilization. And against Texas, we'll see. It's another extremely talented defensive front, extremely talented defense with a lot of athletes, but you're going to have to utilize Eli Stowers, Cole Spence, and that jet sweep action with your playmakers, Troy Richardson and Caleb Barnett.
Well, yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because I believe on the first drive, either the first or the second drive, they combined both of your points. They had a jet sweep to the tight end, Eli Stowers, for a big gain, and just never went back to it at all.
Yeah, that was the part is they did it early and it wasn't unsuccessful. That was the part that I couldn't. They just went away from it. You only saw it in the first quarter. But yeah, that's my key takeaway number 3. That is all of me and Trevor's key takeaways. Touched on Diego kind of struggling. Touched on Missouri outgaining Vanderbilt across the board, winning time of possession, neutral turnover battle. But Vanderbilt found a way to win due to the defense creating some big plays. And then Vanderbilt was the one that made the big plays in key moments. And that's what ultimately wins you football games. The Bo Prabula injury obviously did have some impact, but I will say Matt Zollers came in and performed better than Prabula was performing. Made a hell of a throw on 4th and 2 in the red zone. Matt Zollers finished the game 14 of 23 for 138 and 1 touchdown, no picks. MK Young was the team's leader in rushers. Obviously, a majority of this coming on the 80-yard touchdown run, 4 carries for 86 yards and a touchdown. Seti had a lot of tough yards that he picked up, a long carry of 4 yards.
He was working his ass off,
10 carries for 27 yards. Trey Richardson, an incredible toe drag catch. He was clearly involved in this game plan, 4 catches for 62 yards. Kevin Coleman Jr. is a real threat on the outside. He had a solid game for Missouri, 7 catches for 109 yards. Some of that boosted up by that last-second Hail Mary that they called complete on the field. Vanderbilt won by literally inches. This game took 5 to 10 years off of my life. You talked about it early. In the stands, I was the last person sitting in the stands on the home side. Me and my dad and Corn just sat there and just stared at the field. There wasn't even that moment of exultative relief at the end because there was the long review. And then it was the call on the field has been overturned. The ball was caught, but was short of the line to gain. It was just the entire game from start to finish was stressful as hell. I can't even imagine. My watch died, as it always does, because I need to get a new one, need to head out to T-Mobile. I keep putting it off. But my heart rate was in the 150s. There's no doubt in my mind. I was at level 4 on Apple Watch's fitness of heart rate zones throughout that entire game. My voice is back. Hopefully it doesn't crack too much. Yesterday it was horrendous, so I'm glad it has recovered today. Yeah, those are pretty much all my takeaways. Vanderbilt's defense was incredible. I thought Brian Longwell had a really good game. Keanu Coote picked up a sack again for the 2nd straight week. Nice to see him finally making a bit of an impact. He hasn't been bad this year. I think that he was just like the most hyped up transfer throughout this whole process, and he just hasn't been a true impact guy throughout the season. But another sack on the book. So Trevor, you got something to say?
Yeah. Really, the last thing I want to discuss in this game, and staying on the defensive side.
Remember, we have premium message board questions. too.
Yes. I want to ask you the question. Has there ever been in your life a more important defensive play than the one that Vanderbilt had stopping Bo Prabula on 4th and 1? That might be, and I know we have a lot of ball left to play. I think we could look back on that one play and say that was the most important play of the season. And I think for me personally, in all the years I've watched Vanderbilt football, that might be the most important defensive play I've ever seen in Vanderbilt football.
Well, that's why this game was, as Josh Pate, to quote him again, was for the sophisticated football palate. Vanderbilt comes out drive one. You're feeling like, okay, it's 3-3. Vanderbilt's kind of muddled through that first half, fought back. It's a tie ball game at half. They're getting the ball first to open up the second half. Time for the offense to come out, drive down, touchdown drive, get it done. Comes out, interception. The one thing you cannot have, tipped at the line of scrimmage. It wasn't Diego Pavi's fault, but tipped at the line of scrimmage and an interception. It feels like at worst, Missouri is going to go up in this game where points are at a premium. Eli Drinkowitz rolls the dice. Missouri gets down in the red zone. I think it was 1st and goal from the 3 or the 4. Get down there, and Vanderbilt's defense steps up. Missouri had all the momentum at that point. And that, yeah, I think you're right. I think that combined with that C.J. Hurd strip, those were the 2 defensive plays that we're going to look back on if this team continues their special run that you're going to say change the season from a defensive perspective, as well as the MK Young run 2 weeks in a row. MK Young has had basically one of the biggest runs in the history of Vanderbilt football 2 weeks in a row. The run against LSU to basically seal the game, and then a run that was maybe the loudest I've heard First Bank Stadium in my entire life, especially that pop after he actually crossed the goal line. It was incredible.
Can we, and I know we have to get the message board. Can we talk about the crowd for that game? That was the best Vanderbilt football crowd I've ever been a part of in my life. That took over K-State, and that was better than 2013 Ole Miss. That place was rocking.
I mean, of course. So this is where it's like you're making progress.
Yeah.
That was the most into it I have ever seen a Vanderbilt crowd, into it, and loudest I've ever seen a Vanderbilt crowd. I know we're in Section F, and that's the junkyard. That's the heart of it all. That was the first time I've been in a Vanderbilt game. Literally every single play. Every single offensive and defensive play, the entire section was standing up. And that went for basically the entire home side. My complaint has often been that Vanderbilt fans come in and watch the game almost like they're watching on the couch. And people will complain about you standing up. That was not a problem during this game. And before it was Vanderbilt, getting beaten with the amount of opposing fans that are there. And in the LSU game, I think it was probably 60% LSU fans in that stadium. It wasn't horribly embarrassing, but it was bad. This was 70-30. This was Missouri took over the visitor side. Don't get me wrong. But in that home side, that was Vanderbilt fans. And the student section was packed out. Shout out to the student section.
Shout out to the students,
they've been doing a great job, especially on College Game Day. College Game Day was a great environment as well. I was out there for most of it and then went back over to the tailgate to watch the picks because for the second time this season, I've been at College Game Day. And before, I had never been to College Game Day before. This was not a Vanderbilt problem. I don't know what ESPN needs to do. They need to get louder speakers. When you stand there for College Game, you can't hear anything. You can't hear what they're saying up there. So I went back because I actually wanted to be able to hear the picks and see what was going on. But incredible environment, the best home crowd that I've seen during an SEC game. For Vanderbilt, the loudest, most engaged crowd I've seen. And Vanderbilt fans, if you haven't been to First Bank for a game, you're doing yourself a disservice. Get to the bank. It's finally a great environment. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, what a time, man. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
All right, let's get to premium message board questions. Of course, I've not read these before per usual, so we are going to try to filter through these. Some of these will be Texas, which we will get to after the TDR cocktail break, after the Texas preview. Some of these will be or majority of these will be, I assume, about the Missouri game. Starting off, a guy we just talked about from Scott Reed says, has Keanu Coote showed up in the last 2 games? A sack in each game?
Yeah. I mean, he's had a sack in each game. Yeah, I would consider that showing up.
Showed up. Yeah. GLH4VU regular poster says, who's got it better than us?
No.
funny how in tune we are with our listeners as well after doing our 3 key takeaways, because the next part of this question is, did the Tim Beck play calling seem off again this week? We didn't get to run a ton of plays, but I didn't love what we did. Could just be a me problem. I wouldn't say seemed off necessarily, but yeah, it was my 3rd key takeaway for a reason. It just seemed like after Vanderbilt forced that turnover from CJ Hurd, the first 2 plays were just launching the ball down the field, and they got bailed out by a pass interference call. So it didn't ultimately end up mattering, but it was like, all right, guys, we don't have to launch the ball down the field. I don't know. It just felt like he was pressing in some capacity.
I think too, my explanation for that is that Missouri did a really, really, really good job in the run game, not just from the running backs, but they pretty much limited Bobby. Like there were no running lanes for him. They didn't let him scramble that much. So I think Tim Beck thought, okay, this isn't working. They're starting to load the box more. I don't think they threw those deep bombs, as dumb as this sounds, with the expectation of completing them, but they had to do something to make Missouri respect them.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to do something to get them off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
Like Tim Beck's a very, very good offensive coordinator, very good at calling plays, but that doesn't mean he's immune from criticism on the outside either. Like, I'm not complaining like, get Tim Beck out of here or anything like that. But yeah, there were some times that it frustrated me what Vanderbilt was doing on offense.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that 100%. The next one is kind of a Texas question, but how much does it matter if Arch Manning plays? He hasn't been great or even good, really, but I don't know anything about the backup. We will get to that.
Yeah, we'll save that because I've got some stuff.
I love GLH4VU. That's a frustrating question to me, to be completely honest. Arch Manning was fucking cooking against Mississippi State if you watch that game. Obviously, you want the freaking backup playing over Arch Manning. I mean, anything else is just copium, for lack of a better term. And then lastly, 4 asterisks. I'll let you guys determine whatever that was. 4 asterisks, the SEC refs, and anyone who thinks we intentionally hurt Provula. Yeah. I mean, Vanderbilt fans know the character of Clark Lee and know these guys. They're junkyard dogs, but they're not going to gator roll a guy's ankle to intentionally hurt him. That's just not going to happen.
And it's like we had this discussion before we hit record on this, and I've watched the Joshua Singh play numerous times. Missouri fans have said that I'm seeing what I want to see because I'm a Vanderbilt fan. I would say you're seeing what you want to see because you're a Missouri fan. That was not a gator roll. A gator roll is to where you take it and you roll over on your back. Literally, like, I wanted to tweet at these guys and be like, Google a gator roll and tell me if that's what he did. No, he grabbed onto his ankle and he was doing his job in that he was defending every blade of grass on inside the 1 yard line.
On 4th and goal.
On 4th and goal. And they're like, oh, he didn't let up whenever the whistle blew. Let's be honest, guys. And I get it. A lot of people haven't played football that love football, and that's wonderful. But, like, in that moment, do you think they're hearing the whistle immediately? How many plays a Saturday and a Sunday do you see a play made and there's stuff still going on after the whistle? That's part of the game of football. Is like there's momentum, and like it's hard for a 300-pound dude just to get up at the snap of a hat. Like, let's use some reason.
It's also
and
like
logic here
from 1,000-foot view as well. It's easy to say when you're watching on TV, well, he was tackled already. Well, when you're face down,
how's he supposed
after
to know that?
battling through an offensive lineman, you have a hold of his leg. How do you know that if you release his leg, he's not still up? How are you going to know that? It's hard for me to believe, and whatever, maybe it's the gold colored glasses that we've been around this team quite a bit through fall camp. It's hard for me to believe that a guy intentionally dislocated another player's ankle.
Yeah. I'll go on the record, dude. Like you said, we've been around fall camp. We know a lot of these players. We know a lot of the staff. This team is comprised of really, really, really good guys. And I'll just leave it at that. No way Joshua Singh would ever intentionally hurt somebody. No way. I'll put my hat on that.
Moving to Pavia Mafia says, what was the single loudest moment inside First Bank Stadium this Saturday? On TV, MK Young's house call was possibly the loudest Vandy crowd noise I've ever heard. Though Sea Snake's turnover and Pavia's touchdown also sounded electric. MK Young was the
MK
loudest.
Young was deafening.
When he initially broke it was loud, and then when he did not get tripped up and actually scored, that was electric.
Yeah.
Grown men were hugging other random grown men in the stands. It was absolutely electric.
That was
in
awesome.
that stadium. That's why I'm saying you're doing yourself a disservice if you're a Vanderbilt fan and are not experiencing First Bank Stadium this season.
It's special.
Because it is special.
It's special.
And people can fucking make fun of it from other fan bases, whatever they want to do. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Because if you're a Vanderbilt fan, you've been in that stadium week in, week out, you know how special that environment is right now. Being surrounded by diehard Vanderbilt fans that are screaming their lungs out on every single down. It's a special experience right now. You need to be a part of it. I don't care what the cost is. You're going to be kicking yourself for the rest of your life if you do not show up for the Auburn or the Kentucky game.
It finally, for the first time in my life, feels like an SEC football game from a crowd perspective. For the first time.
Next up is Data Door. I don't know if we've seen a
New
question from Data Door.
poster?
He's a regular or consistent poster on other threads. I don't know
Yeah.
if he's asking the Q&A before. It says, is there a better sign of Vandy's success than all the hate we are getting? For years, we were the lovable losers. We stayed in our lane and people loved cheering for us. The condescending language of, I always cheer for Vandy as long as they aren't playing fill in the blank. Once we became dangerous and start stepping on toes, people hate us. They call us cocky, dirty, accuse us of conspiring with the refs. They hate us. Honestly, I love it. Cry more. This is the new Vandy. This is what I talked about all offseason.
Yep.
I said, I predicted 7-5. Okay. So I'll take a step back. I said there was a reason that this team was confident and the things Diego Pavia was saying were not illogical. And I thought it was a possibility, but I did not predict, like Trevor and like Blake, the miracle run that we are seeing right now. So I'll add that in. But I said, if they do it, Vanderbilt fans for the first time are going to experience real vitriol and hatred from other fan bases. And before, they simply have not experienced that outside of the occasional Tennessee fans during the Tennessee game week. You just haven't experienced it. Now you are experiencing, you are beating teams when it matters. You knocked Missouri out of college football playoff contention. You're getting hate.
You did it to LSU.
Embrace it. Enjoy it. This is what it means to be a real contender. This is what it feels like. Teams are going to pull out and whine. Fan bases are going to complain. You're dirty. You're conspiring. Oh, the SEC wanted to keep their Cinderella alive. Well, for years I heard the Vanderbilt, no one cared. So why in the world, if a conference is really around like getting the most eyes and bringing in the most revenue, why in the world would they conspire with Vanderbilt? If there's one school that's ever had a valid thing to be like, things have been conspired against my team, it would be Vanderbilt.
It would be.
Because it would make sense from a monetary perspective, because it is the smallest fan base. It's the smallest student body. It's the least historical success. However, you're experiencing the hate. Enjoy it. Soak it in. Love it.
Yep. It's awesome. Yeah. And I've said it. I feel like I've said it on so many pods. We've said it on so many pods. People that listen to this pod, people that follow us on Twitter know that I like to be the villain. And it makes me glad. It makes my heart sing that Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt fans are being painted as the villain. I love it when people say hateful things about Diego Pavia. I love it when they call him cocky. I eat it up. This is what I've always wanted.
Yeah. Also, if you actually watch, like, not just clips, but watch full interviews of Diego Pavia and hear stories of people interacting with Diego Pavia and see the dynamic he has with his teammates, he's confident, man. I would not describe that guy as arrogant or cocky. Like I've continued to say, if you're going to be Diego Pavia and go from the New Mexico Military Institute to now being a Heisman contender, and people can hate on that, but go look at BetMGM, look at the gambling markets. Heisman contender being the starting quarterback for an SEC team ranked in the top 10, you got to have a little self-belief in yourself, or you're not going to end up there. So, yeah, he probably is a little confident in himself, but it's confidence.
Yeah.
He is a win-first guy. He's not a stats-first guy.
No.
At all. That's the difference. That's how you tell the difference. Is Diego Pavia, how he opened up the press conference was saying, I'm up here because I'm the starting quarterback of this team, but this defense has guys that made plays to win the game.
Yep.
That's how he opened up the press conference. That's not a cocky or arrogant guy that starts out that way.
No.
Next up, we have yet another door lawyer says, should MK Young be considered the lead back moving forward? Or do you like the Montgomery Gibbs-esque 1-2 punch with Seti and Young?
I love the 1-2 punch. I think what Cedric Alexander brings to the run game, I think his versatility, not just in the run game, but in the pass game and in pass pro. I mean, watch, if you ever have a chance and you have free time, go back and just put on a random Vanderbilt game and watch Cedric Alexander in pass pro. He's the lead back, in my opinion, and what they're doing with this 1-2 combo is sensational. I think Cedric Alexander is a really, 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 really good back, and I think he should be the number one back.
Cedric Alexander's the number one back.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this like why MK Young is having success. Like he's not a good back. I mean, why he's having that success is Cedric Alexander wears the defense down. And then you put in a fresh MK Young who has a different style of running. And so that 1-2 punch, leave it as the 1-2 punch, is working incredibly well. MK Young is averaging 12.3 yards a carry per reason for a reason. That is because Cedric Alexander is tiring out the defense with hard-nosed running, getting the short, gritty yards. Then you put in MK Young, boom. You have a change of pace back that's fresh.
Yeah.
Then yet another door lawyer goes on to say, we got real lucky Saturday, but a playoff run requires a little luck, I think. Got to tighten some things up because I don't think we can go into Austin with a performance like that and come back out with another win. All things considered, though, everything's still in front of us, which is huge. Yep.
I agree.
GLH4VU, I'll hold off on the second part of this question because there's another question later that I see that we can answer on, but it says, is that the biggest 10-second runoff in Vanderbilt football history? Talking about the Jesus Christ.
False start.
No, not false start. It was intentional grounding. That was the 10-second runoff.
Was it? I
Yeah.
thought it was a false start.
No, it was intentional
my
grounding.
bad. But yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
Especially after that Hail Mary. Yeah, that was massive.
yeah.
Vandy fan 95. I'll actually go to the question that kind of leads into that, and then I'll go back up. JRob1742 says, do you think we would have won or lost if the game went into overtime? I can answer that one. I don't think that game would have gone into overtime. I think if Missouri would have scored, I think they would have gone for 2. There's almost no doubt in my mind, actually. They would have gone for 2. Number 1, they have a backup quarterback in, which is the obvious reason. However, number 2, Missouri does not have a good kicker, and it almost lost them a game last week or the week before against Auburn. Missouri and Drinkowitz, especially with what you saw earlier on 4th and goal when Prbula got hurt, Missouri would have gone for 2. 100%, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. But to play along with the thought experiment, if that went to overtime, I would say Vanderbilt because it's like I said earlier, with a shorter field, this defense is really, really, really good. And I think given that shorter field, I think they would have gotten stopped.
And then also I'm taking in overtime, it often comes down to this. Brock Taylor's automatic almost from inside the range of where you start with the ball versus Missouri's kickers like 50-50 at best. You saw him miss a 29-yarder, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think he would have gone for it. Almost no doubt in my mind. Vandy fan 95 says, how many head football coaches will Vandy get fired this season? We're at 2 so far.
Yeah. Hugh's going to be up there. Hugh will get fired.
Stoops.
That's interesting because with their open lack of care for football, I don't know if they care enough to fire Stoops. Does that make sense?
I also think there's a difference between like your team making a team get fired versus a team that you played firing their coach. So really, if you're playing that game, it's 3, right? Beamer,
Yeah.
Kelly.
You
Pry.
mean Beamer?
Shane Beamer?
Is he going to get fired, do you think?
I think so.
See, I don't think he gets fired.
You don't think he's getting fired?
You
Okay.
want my hot take? Because I think he up and leaves to Tech.
Really?
I think he boldface lied, and that SEC doctor was like, I don't want to be Coach Pry's son. He's a boldface liar. They're gonna come calling. He's gonna take that job.
Okay. I'm wrong on that one. I was thinking he was going to get fired after the season.
I mean, he with the way this college football coaching carousel is, I'm not disqualifying anything. I think anybody outside of Clark Lee, Kirby Smart, Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Day, and Sark.
Signetti.
Yeah, Signetti. I think outside of those guys, and Dan Lanning, I think outside of those guys, nobody can get fired. If you're a top 10 team right now, you're not getting fired. Anybody else, I think, truly is up.
No one's safe.
I think nobody is safe if you're outside of the top 10.
Next, from World's Strongest Vandy Fan, this is a little bit longer, a little more in the weeds, but we'll read it off here. Love seeing World's Strongest Vandy Fan in these Q&As. Says, why so much 11 personnel? We shredded LSU with the tight ends, and then Missouri, we trotted out 3 wide receivers for much of the first half. Did we overthink their run D and try to out-scheme rather than play our game?
I think the reason so much 11 personnel was I think Missouri's backers were athletic enough to cause Vanderbilt's tight ends fits. And so it's like I said earlier, they were, if you trot out there, and World's Strongest Vandy Fan knows this because he's a football coach. But if you're Vanderbilt, if you're Tim Beck and you keep trotting out 12 personnel, well, what Mizzou's going to do is they were just going to keep doing what they were doing. They were having success with. They're going to keep loading the box. And what Vanderbilt needed to do to get LSU off their back and out of the box is they needed to stretch the field. And going 11 personnel and going wide, I think, gave them the best chance to make Mizzou respect them in that aspect.
Yeah, I think that's a question that you're just not going to know the answer to. Obviously, Vanderbilt, like your logic is what they were thinking, but it could be the classic of overthinking it at the same time. Like both can be true. Like there was logic behind it that makes complete sense, but you could just at a certain point, you got to think this isn't really working. Let's go back to what was working.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you just got to trust your guys when you have 2 of the best tight ends in America.
He goes on to say, so a lot of people up in arms about the second half defense. Keep in mind, the offense ran 4 plays in the third quarter. The defense was on the field for 29 in the same time frame. When you've got big 54 Mason Nelson playing 20-plus snaps and a half, you know you're worn down. One big takeaway was the fact that the D-line looked confused at times. I will agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Slow on the field and off the field in large substitution packages and getting aligned way too late. We need to tighten down our substitution packages going forward. Completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Wood and Rinaldi bouncing around different spots is a huge asset, but we have them doing so much in a single drive. I think it's slowing down our subs because guys are having to tell them on the field in the moment what spot they're playing. Mizzou didn't huddle, but subbed enough. We didn't get screwed. Certain other teams of a tangerine complexion out east won't be as nice. That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I need the record set straight. Does Pavia suck, or are we going to fall off after he graduates? Feels like the Vols, Cox, Aubies, Mizzous, and Bammers can't decide which one it is depending on the week. That's a great point.
That's
actually.
A wonderful point.
That's what I keep saying. Pavia sucks, most overrated quarterback in the country, but also Vanderbilt 7-1, and they're going to completely fall off the face of the earth once Pavia leaves. So it's one or the other.
Yeah.
Either the rest of the team is that fucking good, or Pavia is that good.
Yeah.
I think it's a combo of both.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you what, Diego Pavia didn't play defense this week.
Yeah, SEC burner land. Don't expect too much logic going on there. I love reading the comments because most of them, like, Trevor, you're more in the weeds and in the going back and forth. My response,
I love being in the mud. I'm a little piggy.
Most of my stuff was just like womp womp. Womp.
Also, womp womp is going to be my go-to anytime somebody tweets something dumb at me, but I do want to engage. I'm just going to say womp womp because you can't come back from that.
I don't know if you know this, but if you tweet enough and complain enough, the SEC will go back and change the score of a game. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Well, I didn't know that, but I've tried it before and it's never, ever
it's never worked for me, but
it's
for
never
other teams,
worked.
If you tweet enough and bitch enough, they will go back and change the score of the game.
Guys, this is coming from a dude that's chronically online. Like, listen to me. Sometimes you just got to put the phone down.
Just put it down.
Sometimes you just got to put the phone down.
You got to remember social media is not real life.
Yes. Yeah. No,
I love Twitter.
On the real, like, I totally agree. Like, Twitter and what people say to you and the mean things they tweet at you and call you, guys, that's not real life.
I mean this, and this is something that way bigger people have said, and Clay Travis is the main one I'm going to pull from, and he's changed a lot, but whatever. He would always say all the hate comments that he got up online. He said he can count on like 2-3 fingers how many times he's had somebody actually come up and say something to him in person. I've never had a negative interaction in person with somebody that has tweeted at me. Now, I've had negative interactions, but it's never been somebody that from Twitter came up to me in person and said something like, fuck you online. You're that guy. I haven't had that. You might have had that.
I'm trying to
I've had
go
bad,
back
I've
through
had
the
bad
annals.
I've had bad interactions with fans of opposing teams.
No, I know what you mean. I don't think I think I'm right there with
I've
you.
never had somebody be like, "You're at the Will Byron from the door report. You fucking suck."
Yeah,
like that's
no,
never happened.
I've never
one
had
time.
somebody come up to me in real life and be like, "Hey, you're that dude from Twitter. You suck." I've never had that happen.
Never. KY Door says VU seems to have gotten away from controlling the ball with the short passing game. Is this a function of what recent defenses are permitting, or has VU gone to a more run on first down orientation? With MK Young's and last year's speed, why not a few screen passes with the aggressive pass rushes?
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I don't think they've gotten away from it in terms of the whole season. I think they got away from it in this game, and it's like what I've said earlier. I think it was because Missouri has really athletic backers and safeties. And I think that's why they got away.
This is a really good Missouri defense. That's why I did.
This is an elite Missouri
That's
defense.
why I had it as an a alternate of my key takeaways, because I knew it was going to get into the weeds of, this is not me fully criticizing Tim Beck. This was the best defense Vanderbilt has played, and that includes Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama has a really good defense, but not near. Missouri's defense is elite, and that is the reason they were ranked in the top 15. That offense and run game is solid. Ahmad Hardy's a dog. He truly is a dog. That's going to be an NFL running back. But it's not like Missouri has an elite offense by any stretch of the imagination. This defense is what got them to 6-1 prior to that Vanderbilt game.
I agree.
In response to about the online chirping from opposing fans, World's Strongest Vandy fans said, notice the chirping is mostly from Auburn, Missouri, Mississippi State, UT Junior fans. Not exactly the cream of the crop. If we go up, someone has to go down to the basement. That is true as well. That's what I'm saying. You're disrupting the order of things. Somebody's taking the basement spot that Vanderbilt used to occupy. They're no longer there. Mr. Magoo says, what have been the factors driving the difference in Diego Pavi's result/performance in Alabama and Missouri versus the rest of the season? In my opinion, Alabama is different because of the turnovers. With Missouri, Diego didn't play poorly or have costly mistakes. The interception was on a tipped ball, but he was otherwise pretty stymied. Is there something there that can be replicated by other teams moving forward, or is Missouri's defense that elite?
I think they're that elite.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, I'm not trying to make any sort of excuses for Diego. In fact, I'm trying to give credit to the Missouri defense. Go and you can look at defensive EPA and opponent's offensive success rate if you want to really get into the weeds, or you can just look at passing yards allowed, total defense, total rush yards allowed, stuff like that. This Missouri defense is at least top 20 to, in a lot of cases, top 5 in almost every single defensive metric. This defense is really, really, really good.
There's one question that we'll save for after the TDR cocktail break. Another question we'll save for after the TDR cocktail break. We can read this one from HM1030. Says, how concerned should we be at Clark Lee getting hired elsewhere? Would that change if Notre Dame opens? Number one, Notre Dame's not opening. Marcus Freeman's not going, in my opinion.
You don't think he takes that LSU job?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Even if he did, it's a 0.
Yeah. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame is the most desirable job, in my opinion, on the planet, because you have a large amount of control on your schedule. You're part of the ACC scheduling. You have a cakewalk of a schedule. You basically have almost a free pass if you do your job into the college football playoff every single year. They started as bad as you possibly can start, and they're still going to make the college football playoff this year, in my opinion. Marcus Freeman's not going anywhere. Notre Dame is an incredibly, incredibly desirable job. LSU's a top 5 job. At worst, you can argue top 10 in the country. I think Notre Dame's above it, in my personal
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. See, I think LSU is much higher than Notre Dame.
Especially, okay. Well, I just think it's because you have to view it as what teams are you playing. And I mean, if you're just looking at history, I mean, Notre Dame's got just as much or more history than LSU.
Very
They're the
true.
most historic football program in the country.
Yeah.
And also Marcus Freeman's personality just fits Notre Dame a lot better than LSU, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I will say the Clark Lee stuff, Vanderbilt needs to back up the Brinks truck and pay him the extension. Okay. But if all else is equal, why we are so excited about Clark Lee is if all else is held equal and Vanderbilt pays him the money, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I believe Vanderbilt's going to step up and pay him the money.
Guys, believe me when I say this. and I know people are going to be like, oh, once again, why should I believe him? He's a Vandy homer. Please, you can look at the message board. You can look at my track record. I know what I'm talking about. My confidence level of Clark Lee staying at Vanderbilt is a 10 out of 10. Guys, please just trust me. Please trust me.
From Mr. Magoog says Joshua Singh is an absolute pillar of society, and Mizzou fans are way out of line going after him for Pabula. They are quickly becoming my least liked fan base in the SEC. Really wasn't a question there. Carry on.
They were mad whiny, dude. They're mad whiny
About everything.
Weird fan base. Just kind of
Weird.
It's probably because they're Midwesterners, don't you think?
Yep, they're not Southerners.
Yeah.
Not in the South or the East. Kodak Black and Gold gets the TDR picks recap. I went 4-6. You went 4-6. I suck at these. I'm 12-22 on the year. Trevor's 15-19. Not doing great so far on the prop picks. Thank God that's not legal to bet on in the state of Tennessee. Then he gives over-unders for Texas. We will save those.
I love those.
The Real Deal 26 says, not a question, but a damn statement. The doors are back and are legitimately about to make a playoff run in 2025. Save your money or pull out a loan. Let's enjoy this shit. Yes.
I agree. Enjoy it, Vandy fans.
VSFS 2017 says, how much of our limited wide receiver production the last few weeks has been scheme/intentionally focusing on establishing run game versus not having guys on the perimeter who can separate/make plays against top SEC defensive backs? A major preseason concern. Trey and Jr. have made some great catches, but I'm concerned we're becoming more one-dimensional as we hit the meat of our SEC schedule. I know I'm saying this 2 weeks removed from putting 31 up on LSU. I will say, that's just not the Tim Beck offense. I will, yes, slight concern. Sherrill had a couple balls that hit him in the hands that he probably should have brought down that he didn't. But I would say overall, you're just not going to have those insane numbers from your wide receivers in a Tim Beck offense. Just not going to happen. If it's functioning at 100% efficiency, you're just not going to have them. I think that's a majority of it.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
Another Texas question. Castledore 552 says, what's the confidence level that we could maybe steal some recruits from these top programs that have lost coaches, LSU, Penn State, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt's in on a couple Penn State guys. LSU TBD. I'm trying to think. If Hugh Freeze gets fired this year, there's a couple of guys at Auburn that I'm eyeing.
We're still early in a
Yeah.
lot of that. There's so much can change. So right now, not 100% sure, but there is a possibility. That was the last question related to the Missouri game. We have quite a few about the Texas game and kind of some miscellaneous stuff. Phoebe, please move. We are going to head now into the TDR cocktail break. So grab yourself a delicious beverage, and we'll be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back in to episode 339 of The Door Report. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break. Hope you have a delicious ice cold beverage or a nice warm coffee as Trevor drops his thankfully unopened Diet Coke. That could have been disastrous and had to redo this opening part. We have the Texas preview in segment 2 here of episode 339. Vanderbilt playing the number 20 ranked Texas Longhorns. Vanderbilt sitting at number 9 in the country in Austin at Texas. 11 a.m. kick for the third game in a row. The Vanderbilt Commodores are on ABC. This time, an 11 a.m. kickoff once again. Vanderbilt opened as a 2.5-point underdog against Texas. That line has shifted slightly as a little bit more news and information. Still a lot up in the air, but about Arch Manning's current injury status has changed. Vanderbilt is now a 1.5-point underdog, as well as the over-under is sitting at 44.5. Vegas is expecting a tight, low-scoring ball game in Austin. Texas, under Steve Sarkisian, 0-3 versus AP top 10 teams at home. Interesting little stat pull.
Stat pull.
Now, I did see that.
Wow.
Okay, I will add the caveat. I did not fact check some of these. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, CBS, PFF. That was a CBS stat.
Okay, so if that's wrong, blame
if that's
CBS.
wrong, blame CBS. Don't blame me. It could have been CBS, could have been PFF. One of the two. Blame one of the two of them.
Yeah, blame the media conglomerates.
I also want to give
over the independent.
I also want to give
podcasts.
them credit as well, if that is correct. I didn't research that and find that on my own.
Actually, no. Give us credit, but give them the blame.
Exactly. That's what we're looking for is an independent coverage. We're not
come on.
Well, we're not technically independent anymore, but
We're little J.
we're part of
Journos.
it. Yeah, we're an independent publisher as part of On 3. We are still independent. Thank you to On 3. We love you guys. The biggest storyline of this week, Arch Manning took a hit at the very end of that very tight Mississippi State game and went out with what was presumed to be a concussion, confirmed by Steve Sarkisian. He is in concussion protocol. We are not going to know, in my opinion, the actual status of Arch Manning either direction, even if they already know he's going to play or he's not going to play. We're not going to know that until the day of the game on Saturday. He's going to be listed as questionable.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but specifically with concussion protocol, it's up to the team physician's final say. And I believe whenever it comes to the mandated SEC
They have to.
I'm pretty positive, specifically with concussions, like if they think he's going to be doubtful, the doctor has like the Hippocratic oath or ethic to say like he's going to be doubtful.
Okay.
Because the way it works is like it's like 6 steps, and if you miss just one step, you have to go back and start all over again. So let's say you made it all the way down to step 5, you mess up, you got to go all the way back to step 1. So they might know tomorrow. So I think tomorrow he'll either be questionable or he'll be doubtful. If he's doubtful at all, he's not playing.
Okay. So Trevor knows a little bit more than I do. That's why
been-
he's the best co-host on the planet right there.
Researching concussion protocol the past couple
So
days.
Steve Sarkisian basically said in a quote from I think yesterday, said that we will know more as the week progresses, which means it's up in the air right now. Matthew Caldwell is Texas's backup quarterback, was previously for 2 seasons at Gardner-Webb before starting 6 games last season for Troy, prior to being kind of a late transfer into Texas in 2025. That's the big story of the week. It's kind of a tough spot in some ways that Vanderbilt is put in, trying to prepare for 2 different quarterbacks, but at the same time, also a benefit to Vanderbilt. I'm not cheering for injuries or anything, but with Arch Manning already having the injury, number one, if Arch plays, he's not going to get a full week of preparation. That's number one. If he doesn't play, you're facing a backup quarterback. So obviously, all things held equal, even though Vanderbilt's past, not saying the recent years, Vanderbilt struggled against backup quarterbacks. That is obviously an advantage for Vanderbilt if they are facing Matthew Caldwell. At running back, Texas has quite a few guys that can contribute out of that backfield. Quintravian Wisner. I've watched a lot of Texas games. I can't believe that I couldn't figure out how to pronounce that name at first. He's kind of their leading back out of the backfield, but overall Texas's run game has really struggled this season. Wisner runs really hard, tough guy to bring down, but he's only averaging 3.8 yards per carry this season, 70 carries for 263 yards. Arch Manning is this team's second leading rusher. Jarrett Gibson and CJ Baxter are kind of a 2-3 punch that also come in and run the ball quite a bit, 37 and 33 carries respectively, 152 yards, 137 yards, both averaging right at around 4 yards per carry. Catching the football, the obvious star out of this Texas wide receiver room is Ryan Wingo. He's a future NFL wide receiver. 29 catches, 504 yards, 4 touchdowns. They also have a couple guys that have been key contributors. DeAndre Moore Jr., 26 catches, 330 yards. Parker Livingstone, little white boy receiver, 19 catches, 330 yards, 5 touchdowns on the season. Texas has talent. The offensive line has not been good that good this year. Trevor, I'm sure you have more on that. A very, very talented Texas defense. I know they struggled against Mississippi State. Do not get me wrong. They're not impenetrable, but they are a very talented defensive front and front 7 for Texas. They are one of the best running defenses in the country. Against FBS opponents, Texas is giving up 2.4 yards per carry in the run game. That is number 3 in the country. They're only giving up 80 yards per game to opponents running the football. That is number 4 in the country. That has caused teams to throw the ball quite a bit against Texas. They are number 114 as a percentage of opponents' plays Opponents are throwing the ball almost 53% of the time against Texas. That is 114th in the country. Pretty decent against the pass as far as keeping the ball in front of them, only giving up 6.4 yards per opponent pass attempt. Once again, it's going to kind of be good on good. Vanderbilt, the number 3 rushing offense in the country in yards per carry. Texas, the number 3 rushing defense in the country against FBS opponents. So you got good on good, just like you had last week against Missouri. It's going to be interesting to see these teams matched up. Some talent on the defensive side of the ball for Texas. Linebacker Anthony Hill Jr., he leads the team in tackles. He's also the guy, if I had to predict, a lot of athleticism. He's probably going to be the guy that is consistently spying Diego Pavia, keeping him maintained in the pocket. Also, maybe their most dynamic player, Trevor mentioned him earlier, not Colin Smith, Colin Simmons, linebacker / edge rusher, 5.5 sacks in the last 3 or 4 games. I cannot remember if it's 3 or 4, but he is a disruptor. Texas had 7 sacks against Mississippi State and Blake Shapen. They were very, very disruptive. Michael Taff, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's going to be out again, I believe. He had thumb surgery after the Kentucky game. He's a very key part of this Texas defense, definitely the best player on the back end of that Texas defense. And you saw the impact of him being out against Mississippi State, who had a lot of success against this Texas defense, where Texas was able to pull it out in overtime and win a 45-38 game for their second overtime victory in a row. That is kind of a very, very quick rundown of Texas. Trevor, what do you have?
Yeah. So as usual, I've got some more EPA success rate, all that fun stuff. We'll stick to the. No, we've been going offense first. I don't want to change it up. So Texas offense, you don't really need advanced statistics to know that their offense hasn't been good. I mean, I think you can watch a Texas football game and tell their offense has not been good all year. In terms of EPA per play, they rank 103rd in the nation. And offensive success rate, they rank 104th in the nation. So they've seen better days on offense. That's for sure. Going to flip over to the defensive side. Like Will said, their defense is very, very good. They're number 19 whenever it comes to total defense. They're 19th in the nation. They're 4th in the nation in sacks. Like you said, that defensive line is very, very disruptive. I do want to highlight, though, I think this is a very good Texas defense. However, I'm not entirely sure they're better than Missouri. I think, according to the stats, Missouri is very, very good in pass coverage. Texas is number 64 in the nation. Whenever it comes to opponent passing completion and total pass coverage. So they're a little bit susceptible there, and that was before their star safety was out. So I do imagine those numbers drop off a little bit, like you said. Colin Simmons, elite off the edge, as well as Ethan Burke, also a really, really good edge defender. I don't know if you want me to go over this now. I can do it now, or I can save it. I have some stats on Matthew Caldwell, the backup quarterback. I can go whenever you want.
If it's one of your keys, save it. If it's not one of your keys,
it's not one of my keys.
Now,
okay, so there's been a lot of people saying, and we don't know, or it could be Arch, it could be Matthew Caldwell. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not sure. Texas knows right now. We'll know tomorrow whenever the mandated report comes out. It's like you said, man, and I don't know if we'll address this in the questions. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't know, man, Arch sucks. I'd rather play the backup. Guys, I would always, always, always rather play a backup than a starter. I don't care that Arch has had a bad season. That's just me personally. But Matthew Caldwell, been playing football for a long time. I believe this is his 5th year in college football. He has a career completion percentage of 57%. You heard me right. He has a career completion percentage of 57%. His career touchdown to interception ratio, 21 career touchdowns to 15 career interceptions.
59% career completion percentage.
So that is, but I took out, that's with Texas included. I took out those numbers. So because he's 8 for, correct me if I'm wrong, he's 8 for 11 with 1 touchdown at Texas. And so that would be 22. I took out his Texas numbers, but before Texas, 57%, 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. I don't know, guys. I'd be lying to you if I said I watched a lot of Troy and Gardner Webb football in my life. But just looking at these numbers, that's not good, especially whenever you put him behind potentially a really, really bad Texas offensive line. I don't know. we'll get into it later. I think it definitely tilts heavily in Vanderbilt's favor.
Yeah, I mean, and also the part, and I know we're probably stepping on a message board question here, but it's like Trevor, and he
I
spilled the Diet Coke.
Diet Coke.
Spilled the Diet Coke.
This glass is, or the can's very slippery.
So I'll keep it rolling here for a second while Trevor grabs some paper towels and our beautiful tablecloth you've just ruined. This was a whole $1, and you just destroyed it. Yeah, the other part of this is Arch Manning is a talented guy. And against Mississippi State, he got rolling against that Mississippi State defense. He was 29-46 for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. I just think it's very obvious that you would prefer to play a backup quarterback who transferred in from Gardner-Webb / Troy over Arch Manning. That's just me. It could be he comes out and just tears up this Vanderbilt defense, but it feels relatively obvious to me that you would prefer not to face Texas' starting quarterback who's been getting all the reps with the first team throughout the whole season. Trevor, do you want to dive into our keys to the game real quick? You want me to go first? Or?
I can go first. I'm prepared now. That was a very easy spill to clean. This can is very slippery. I don't need to get better grip in my fingertips. My key to victory, number 1, we're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. I feel like this is a key to victory for either yourself or me every single week since Tim Beck has become the offensive coordinator. But I think Vanderbilt needs to, first off, run the ball. Actually, I'm going to nix run the ball. Vanderbilt needs to keep their offense on the field for as many plays as possible. Not necessarily because of time of possession alone, but this Texas defense the past 2 weeks has played 80-plus snaps in each game. You heard me right. In Kentucky, they played over 80 snaps. Against Mississippi State, they played over 80 snaps. That's a lot of football for a defense. And so that tells me that, I mean, playing one game on defense on 80 snaps is hard as hell, let alone 2. You're telling me that this is going to be a super fresh defense going into Vanderbilt after back-to-back overtime games, playing 80-plus snaps? I'm not buying it. Vanderbilt's offense needs to stay on the field and continue to wear out what presumably is and rightfully so, understandably so, a tired Texas defense.
I like that one. My key number 1 is Vanderbilt needs explosive plays. So it's a little bit different than yours, maybe on the other side. But the last 2 weeks against LSU and specifically against Missouri, those explosive plays have won them the game. And even deeper than that, as I said, I watched the PFF show and they had this is one of their stats, so giving them credit. Anybody can fact check this. Last year, Vandy only had 1 play for 20-plus yards against Texas. Vanderbilt needs at least 3 plays of 20-plus yards against Texas. That's a key to victory. That doesn't have to necessarily come through the passing game, but it can come through the run game, come through the pass game, whatever it needs to. Vanderbilt has been so much better this season with explosive plays. They're going to need that against this Texas defense to move the ball down the field because I just don't think you're going to be able to pick up 4 yards at a time consistently against this Texas defensive front. You need to try. I mean, you can't get away from what you do, but I don't see it happening where you have a 15, 16, 17 play drive against this Texas defense. I think you're going to need explosive plays to flip the field. So that's my key number 1. Vanderbilt needs to create explosive plays on offense.
Yeah, I agree, man. You have to make them respect you both ways. And so I don't think that goes against my point at all. So I totally agree. My second key to victory is going to be pressure. Once again, you could say it in every football game ever played that a key to victory is getting pressure on the quarterback. I think it is ever so more important in this game because of a couple factors. If Arch Manning plays, Arch Manning has not been good. It's just, you can look at the numbers, he hasn't been good. Matthew Caldwell plays. You throw in a guy who his first start at Texas, backup, didn't have great stats at Gardner-Webb and Troy. And I think Vanderbilt is going to be capable of getting sacks and getting pressure on the quarterback. Not only do I think that Vanderbilt's defensive line and defensive front is good, this might be the worst P4 offensive line Vanderbilt will go up against all season long. If you have not watched Texas football, this is one of the worst. Other than Kentucky, and even then it's close, this might be the worst offensive line in the SEC. They're really, really, really bad. I think Vanderbilt's going to be successful in getting pressure, but they got to get pressure. I think that'll win them a ball game.
You can't see it on camera. I was a little distracted by Phoebe's cuteness as she rolled over. My key number 2 is on the other side of the football. And this is, once again, as most keys to victory are, an easier said than done thing. The offensive line is going to have to perform better than they did last week against this Texas defensive front. This is the number 1 and number 2, whatever direction you want to go here. These are the 2 toughest defensive fronts Vanderbilt's going to face all season. If Vanderbilt's going to do either, key takeaway number 1 from either me or Trevor, the offensive line is going to have to handle Texas's pressure up front. They have to perform better than they did last week against Missouri. So that's pretty short, pretty simple, but the offensive line has to perform and keep Pavia protected against this Texas front, and they also need to open up consistent running lanes. One of the 2. They got to do one of the 2. But yeah, I'll kind of lean over into what I had initially written down as well, because it kind of leans into this. This is not an easier said than done. This is going to go against what I said about the Missouri takeaways. I think Pavia is going to have to beat this Texas defense with his arm. I do not think Vanderbilt's going to be able to consistently run the football, and Pavia is going to have to make multiple plays in the passing game to beat this Texas defense. I've watched them. Granted, the Oklahoma game, John Mateer was coming off hand surgery. I'm not saying that this Texas defense is athletic. This is the most athletic defense Vanderbilt has faced. I just do not think you're going to be able to run the football. Diego Pavia is going to have to beat them with his arm, which is going to require the offensive line to perform well against Texas's defensive front. So that's kind of a 2-1 for my key to victory number 2.
Yeah, my key to victory number 3 is the secondary, in particular. Really, the defensive backs are going to have to tackle in space. They're going to have to do a better job at tackling and bringing down opponents within space. This Texas offense utilizes a lot of bubble and tunnel screens to their wide receiver. I was looking at it earlier, and close to 50% of Arch Manning's passes are behind the line of scrimmage. Almost 50% of his passes this season have been behind the line of scrimmage. Texas, go ahead.
I was going to say, trust me. I went on Inside Texas and said that stat and said, yeah, I don't know if Arch Manning's fully trusted inside this offense, because basically half his passes are throwing screens and tunnel screens to his wide receivers. And I got just shit on for that comment. Like it wasn't a fucking fact.
I mean, you can go on PFF and look at the split. Like they have.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, I've watched like 7 Texas games. I've seen it happen. I don't know what I'm being argued with about this. Arch Manning's not throwing the ball consistently down the field.
Were they tweeting at you like he's like,
no, that was
on
like YouTube comments.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. But I mean, yeah, that's just a certifiable fact. This Texas team and this Texas offense really utilizes those bubble and tunnel screens. They like to get in on the perimeter quick. Vanderbilt's cornerbacks are going to have to get off their block quickly, and they are going to have to make one-on-one tackles in space. They've got to be better at tackling. I don't want to see this lowering your shoulder no more. I need to see you wrap up opponents. If Vanderbilt can't do that, then Texas is going to break a lot of these screens for touchdowns, or at least chunk plays. You got to bring them down first time.
So my key number 3 is something we've talked about all throughout this episode: red zone defense. You need to force, like you said, Texas throws a lot of screens. I think they're going to get some yardage. They're going to break a few of those. I think they're going to be able to move the ball a little bit, regardless of who is at quarterback. But once this Texas team enters, I won't even say fully the red zone, but inside the 30, you've got to stiffen up. You've got to force field goals. You've got to force 3 points instead of 7 points. I think that is ultimately going to be the difference in the game. So what Vanderbilt's defense has been able to do the last couple weeks, they need to do it again. This red zone defense needs to step up. I'm not super concerned if they move the ball from the 20 to the 20 or the 30 to the 30. That's not a huge concern to me, as Phoebe almost falls off the table.
Oh, Lord. Did you see that fatherly instinct of me to just...
That was very close. But this red zone defense needs to step up and do what they did last week against Missouri, force them into field goals. If Texas decides to go get stops on 4th and goal, that is going to be maybe the main key to this game, outside of Vanderbilt needing explosive plays to me, is this red zone defense is going to need to do what they've been doing. So that's my key number 3 to victory. Trevor, you want to dive into predictions here?
Yeah, I'd love to.
You want me to go first, or you've been going first?
I've been going first, and we've been having good luck with me going first.
We
so I'll
wanted to
keep
mess up
going
the
first.
juju, even though your prediction is always better than mine.
It's okay. You know, it's people think that we plan these predictions. Like, oh, this week he's going to have a script. He's going to go outside. No, it's just the vibes. I let the vibes take me where the vibes want to take me. So yeah, I've done a lot of research into this game. I've watched a lot of Texas football. I've went back and I've watched even more Texas football. I feel like I have a pretty good pulse on Vanderbilt football and how they've navigated the season. Whether it's Arch Manning, Matthew Caldwell, or 2005 Vince Young. I think this Vanderbilt team is obviously better on offense. I think they're going to be able to move the ball, maybe not consistently, but enough on this Texas defense. I think they'll be able to get points on the scoreboard. And whenever I look at this Vanderbilt defense and then I look at this Texas offense, it's like I said, no matter who you put in a quarterback, I think this defensive front is going to have a heyday against this Texas offensive line. So I think it will be a low-scoring game. The Doors have given me zero reason to doubt them. I'm going to go Vanderbilt 23. I will go Texas 13.
Low scoring affair. Still hitting the over though.
Mm-hmm.
Even no,
44 and a half. No,
bad math. I was reading my score and doing the math.
I was going to say that's
wrong. I was wrong.
36.
That's the under. I was reading my score and doing the math. So I actually do see this game playing out somewhat how you just said. I think it will feel like a relatively low-scoring game in some ways, but I think both teams will be able to move the ball better than you saw both teams move the ball in Vanderbilt and Missouri. I think it'll be a lot of short yardage stuff. I think Texas will be able to move the ball up and down the field. I think they will struggle to punch it in. I think Vanderbilt will be able to move the ball, and I think they will struggle to punch it in against this Texas defensive front. I'm going Vanderbilt 27, Texas 20. Kind of right around the over-under where Vegas has it. I think there will be multiple field goals in this game, and some of this can vary depending on who is starting at quarterback for Texas. I'm still of the opinion I think Arch Manning will be starting for them. So that's my prediction with Arch Manning. If it's not Arch Manning, I'm probably going more like 27-17, 24-14, something more similar to what you had. I think it'll slow the pace of play down. I think Texas will try to establish the run even more. But their offensive line, I just don't think is good enough to establish the run against this Vanderbilt defensive front, especially with what we saw last week with Missouri with one of the best rushing attacks in the country. Wasn't able to fully establish the run against this Vanderbilt defense. So I'm going Vanderbilt 27, Texas 20. Time to dive into the remaining premium message board questions we have, unless you have something you want to add here.
Do you want a little stat poll?
Yes, I do.
TDR is undefeated in their predictions whenever we both agree on a prediction.
That is true.
We are 7-0 whenever we agree.
I'm 8-0 in general.
Okay,
this season.
You didn't have to take it there. You didn't have to take it
Had to
there.
brag a little bit.
You didn't have to take it there. But whenever we agree on picks, we're undefeated.
All right, I'm reading through trying to find these. All right, from Sylvan Park Door says, can Trevor tell the Jason Edwards story? What does that exactly mean?
Oh,
Trevor?
damn it. You remember a couple weeks ago whenever I said I would post on the board the Jason Edwards like transfer saga. I'm sorry, guys. I think I'm not trying to make excuses. I think the week I said that was the week before midterms. And then like I was off the board for like a week and a half because midterms was legitimately kicking my ass. I'm so sorry. Hand up. That's on me. I will make a post. I'm going to actually set a reminder. I'll probably make the post tomorrow or Thursday.
All right.
I promise.
Trevor is on it. The second part of that from Sylvan Park Door says, as for football, this weekend is huge. It's historic, in my opinion. College football playoffs aside, Vanderbilt has a chance to go into Texas and beat the flagship program on their home field. It's hard to find any other football program in their history. Massive opportunity for the black and gold. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every week now when you're seeking a college football playoff spot is the biggest game of the year, it feels. Okay, we got the over-unders here from Kodak Black and Gold. TDR picks, I have sucked at these so far, so whatever I say, it's probably going to go the opposite direction. We will see. Team props, starting out, Vanderbilt over-under 16.5 first-half points.
Under.
I'm going under. Vanderbilt over-under 0.5 interceptions forced.
Over.
I'll go over. When was the last time Vanderbilt had an interception?
God.
It's been a while. Forced fumbles.
0.5.
Yeah, over-under's 0.5. Just basically getting one interception.
Yeah. For fumbles or interceptions?
Interceptions. No, I'm still thinking.
Oh, you're
about
still
when the
thinking about
last
interception.
time-
My bad.
yeah.
My bad.
Vanderbilt
Was it
has
Utah State?
Vanderbilt only has 4 picks on the year. That's a good question. Yeah, I'm going over, but I could definitely see under on that. All right, Vanderbilt to force a shutout quarter. Yes/no.
Yes.
I'll say yes on that. Vanderbilt wide receiver / tight end touchdowns over under 1.5. I'm going
Over.
I'm going over on that one.
Yeah.
Player props. Pavia over under 245.5 passing plus rushing yards.
Ooh.
That's right on the number. That's right on the number.
Jeez Louise. Pavia Heisman moment. Give me the over. I know it's a good defense. Give me the over. I believe in the boy.
I'm gonna go under on that one, but literally like at that number, like I think 240. Like that's right where I would put it. 240 to 250 is where I see it happening. Lassiter again over under 0.5 touches. We were both wrong on this last week.
Under.
I'm going under. I think he's out of this game.
He did get a snap, but he just didn't.
He
touch
played.
The ball.
Yeah. I'm going under.
Yeah.
Richardson over under 3.5 receptions.
3.5. Oh, I think he's right at 3, so I'm going to go under.
I'm going over. Stowers over under 19.5 longest reception.
Over.
I'll go under on that one. I think I think he will be involved, but I don't see a deep pass down the field. But I hope I'm wrong. And final one, more all-purpose yards, Alexander or Young.
Alexander.
I'm going Alexander because I think he has not popped one in a couple games. I think this is the game that Alexander's going to have a big reception. I'm going to go reception for Alexander to really push that forward. I think MK Young, potential to have another big run.
Maybe.
Could certainly happen.
Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
Okay, next up from Unabridged. Do you expect a bounce back game from the offensive line? Missouri was probably their weakest outing of the year. I'm going to be honest, no. Missouri was their weakest outing because it was the best defensive line they faced in front seven. This Texas one is the second or first best that they're facing. I don't think the offensive line was not good. Don't get me wrong, but they did enough. I kind of expect a relatively similar performance, but without the elite edge rushers. So maybe you could call that a bounce back game. I think it's going to be kind of more of the same, where it's kind of a struggle, but they're able to do enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't call it a bounce back game. I don't think they have a great game against this Texas front, but I think they'll have a better game than they did against the Missouri front.
Yeah, so maybe you could call that, but I don't expect to be talking about how the offensive line dominated Texas in this game.
The way we talked about them with LSU.
Yeah, I don't expect that. Denver Door says, as of right now, Arch Manning is in concussion protocol. Would you rather him get healthy and play us on Saturday, or have the backup play, considering Vandy's historic lack of success at stopping reserve QBs? We already answered that. I think it's a dumb question. Obviously, I would rather face the backup quarterback who formerly played at Troy and Gardner Webb than I would Arch Manning, who just threw for 346 yards and 29 to 46 against an SEC defense. I think I don't want to say there's a right or wrong answer on an opinion question. I think my answer is the right answer on that. All right. Our favorite post.
Oh, yes.
The Common Man's Commodore 95. Dearest Mother, the times before us are unlike any I have ever witnessed. The rival encampments cry out as though they were wronged, yet their pleas drift into the void, unheard, unanswered, and trembling at the specter of what approaches. A great fire has been kindled, and no mortal hand may quench its fury. The banners of black and gold advance with purpose, pressing nearer to dreams once deemed unreachable. Tell me, how far is a man willing to go to achieve something that has never been done before? It begins this week with an 856-mile march to see that a wandering herd of cattle is brought to heel and to put to question whether or not they are back. As Davy Crockett once said, you can go to hell. I'm going to beat Texas's ass. As always, anchor down, Admiral C. I don't know if there's a better way to close out the episode here.
Dude, how does he keep getting away with this? How does he keep making posts so good?
Any final thoughts here before we close out episode 339?
Horns down.
There we go, baby. For myself, Will Byrum, and my co-host Trevor Hulan, and our producer Phoebe, this has been episode 339 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.